mentioned I work for ZIVELO. Now, we're a little different than I think a lot of organizations that use Intuiface, in that we're not an agency. We are a hardware vendor, a kiosk vendor. So we build kiosks for companies all over the world in many different industries. QSR happens to be one of our strongest ones. McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, they all carry our kiosks as well as other companies' kiosks. And some of them ask for hardware, and then other ones ask for hardware and software. So when I came on board ZIVELO about 3 years ago, I was brought on board to bring software into ZIVELO, because ZIVELO only did hardware at that point in time. And we were looking for the development platform to build applications on. And I attended one of Jeff's webinars, and I was very intrigued with Intuiface. And then I talked to Vincent, and I fell in love with it. This product we found to satisfy 90% of our different needs when it comes to applications. Thank you. 90% of our applications or needs are satisfied by Intuiface. We also use outsourced partners, software vendors that also have their product. So if a customer comes to us and says, we need a kiosk, they always have a purpose for the kiosk. I would advise the kiosk just to have it. And maybe it's wayfinding, maybe it's to do some transactional, serve some transactional purpose within the organization. And what we've found is Intuiface satisfies many of these different avenues. And the reason we really like Intuiface is because it's a UI development tool that enables you to do a lot of the back-end heavy lifting in another environment, such as a .NET platform, where you can build your own custom interfaces and then link them into Intuiface. The project that I'd like to speak about today is a case study with Thai Chili To Go. Thai Chili To Go is a QSR chain, small chain in the United States, and they had a need where they wanted to do self-service in their restaurants, where it would be able to, people would be able to self-order on the kiosk, pay at the kiosk, receive a receipt, and then wait for somebody to call their ticket and then pick up their food. And the challenges for us were that we had not done this before. We had only built the hardware. But I was sure after talking to Jeff and Vincent that there was an opportunity for us to build it on the Intuiface platform, and we did it. I'll go through some of the challenges in the beginning. First of all, Thai Chili To Go was a SMB market. It was rather small, which is what I wanted to start out with. I didn't want to tackle somebody with thousands of stores, but one that was small enough to where we could learn and cut our teeth on. But also the goal was we would be able to build a product and then move it upstream to the tier 2 and then eventually tier 1 market. And we found that Intuiface enabled us to do that, especially with the deployment feature of Intuiface, where we wouldn't have to, with just a click of a button, we could push it out to different regions or across the board to everybody. Thai Chili To Go also had this concept that they wanted to reduce staff in the store by putting in these self-ordering kiosks. So that was the overview of the opportunity. Now, I mentioned before we had never done this before, so we had a lot of different challenges. One of them was the software integration. Seven mentioned that we had to interface with POS systems. That was the biggest challenge. But we also had to integrate with other systems, such as the KDS system. That's a system in the kitchen that displays the orders. Also, we had to interface with hardware. So we had quite a few different hardware products that we had to interface with. And I brought a couple here today to show you. I'm sure some of you have seen these because everybody goes out to eat. But the payment device such as the Verifone device where you swipe your credit card and also beats a chip. And we also had what's called a storm panel. This is the ADA device. ADA is American Disabilities Act in the United States. I know they have another similar regulations here in Europe. Also, we had the MagTech card readers. And then we also had other devices such as the printers. So we had Epson printers, and then we also had to interface with scanners, such as the Honeywell scanner, which would read the barcodes on coupons, as well as loyalty cards. So these were the highest, or the most important things to take care of, first of all, were those integrations. We had to build this product for Thai Chili Go in 3 months, and we actually finished it in about 2.5. And then we were able to also use limited resources. We just had 1.5 developers working on this. And having never done this before, we were pretty proud that we actually pulled that off and had a very satisfied customer. Now, in order to interface with the assets I mentioned before, we had to use custom interface assets. And that was really the key. That was what enabled us to make this all happen. And we use custom interface assets for both the software and the hardware integrations. And then the content integration, we were able to interface with Airtable, which enabled us to bring the data down from the clouds. The solution had to be able to be running on a kiosk when the internet connectivity was lost. So we had to keep the content there locally, but also have it connected to the cloud so that the store owner or management could actually push the content out to the kiosk if it was a special, or if they were out of the product. They wanted that to show up on the kiosk immediately. So they had internet connectivity, but you couldn't rely on it to be there all the time. The POS system, and there's a lot of different ones out here, that was the biggest challenge, was that the POS software had to have an API or an SDK for us to interface with. The one that we used with Thai Chili Yoder was Micros, which is built by Oracle, and they did have an API, so we talked with Micros, and they were, or Oracle rather, and they were very intrigued with this opportunity. They worked very closely with us and made sure that everything went well. Now, we also used a middleware product called Omnivore. Omnivore enables you to integrate to many different POS systems, and that keeps you from having to write to each one individually. So if you write to your Omnivore SDK, then it will then talk to Micros, Touch Bistro, a lot of the other ones. The payment processors. Payment processor was separate from the POS system, and a lot of people get confused about this because they think that the payment processor is the POS, and it can be, but in our case, the payment processor was the Verifone device that I showed you, and the company that we worked with was, in this case, Cayenne, which is built by First Data. So the Cayenne API enabled us to send payments through to First Data. And they took care of the integration to the hardware also, by the way. And then, as I mentioned before, we used Airtable to do cloud updates, and then also Excel for the local database. The receipt printer was a Epson TD88, I believe, and that's pretty common. Most of the different QSR organizations all use it. But that was fairly easy. Again, they had an API. That's what we really liked about Intuiface, is the fact that we could integrate with all these different solutions because of the openness of the Intuiface platform. And then the point of integration payment device, in this case, was Verifone, but there's also the Ingenico. And anytime you're integrating with a payment device, you've got, well, in the United States, something called PCI compliancy, which means you have to take care of it. You're dealing with people's credit cards. But by integrating to the payment processors SDK, we didn't have to worry about PCI compliance. It protects us in that we simply send the amount that needs to be charged to the credit card to the API, the API, and then we put on the screen in the Intuiface code, it's all the instructions on the payment device, and then Cayenne or FreedomPay, WorldPay, whichever payment processor you're integrating to, they take care of the payment device. So that shields us from having to be PCI compliant. So the content integrations, and this was where it got really complicated, is that we didn't want to just build a one-off for Thai Chili to go. We wanted to build a solution that we would be able to take to other customers. So we had to build a platform, in this case in Airtable and Excel, that would be a database that would be flexible enough for other customers. And the goal, of course, was if I'm going to build a templatized solution, that I better build my database so that I can handle both the complicated venues and the simple ones. Good example, we have right now a client that's in Texas, and they have a small chain of ice cream shops, and they have like a dozen products, and they do have modifiers. Modifiers, when you select a product, you can choose large or small, hot or cold, those kinds of things. And for the ice cream shop, it's a very simple menu, only one layer of modifiers. But for Thai Chili to Go and some of the other ones, they'll have hundreds of items that may pop up on the menu, and then multiple layers of modifiers. That's where it gets complicated. But by being able to build this outside Intuiface and then have it integrated to it, we were able to put all the complicated, heavy lifting in another environment and simply use the integration through web services. Loyalty programs and coupons makes integrating with the QSR solution a lot more complicated. And there are programs or systems that you can integrate to, and then some clients will actually have their own loyalty card. And the key to all these is that the other software product or hardware product that you're integrating to, they have to be open and willing to integration, so they have to have an API or an SDK or be willing to work with it. On the point of sale systems, by the way, we set up a sandbox, and all of these different payment processors will do that, as well as the POS systems. They will allow you to set up a test account on a cloud, in the cloud, so that you can actually run development with your Intuiface interface, Intuiface program interfacing with their the cloud development environment. So as I mentioned, the custom interface assets were what we used, and we used them quite extensively. Some of the interfaces were very complex, and others were pretty simple. It really depended on the web service that we were integrated to. And then some of the other tools for content and configuration were, as I mentioned, Excel. And we had many different worksheets. We kept it to one table and put a lot of worksheets. By the way, when we built this product, before we went to market, I mentioned it was 2.5 months, we actually wrote it twice. The first time we built it, it worked, but we knew that the architecture wasn't ideal. You know how you learn from coding things the second time around, you're like, well, let's write this over, and then it becomes a larger project for you, and then write the whole thing over. And it was much better architecture. But with Intuiface, we were able to do that quickly. Because again, all the heavy lifting was on the back end. Here's a few of the screenshots of the product. And this is pretty typical to our product as well as any other that you're going to. You're going to have a splash screen up front. In the case of Thai Chili to Go, they ask for the customer's name so they can call it out. Other ones will simply issue a customer number, so there's no need for an input of somebody put in the name. It will just issue one. Then you'll have a categories menu. In this case, it was pretty simple. It was only 6 items. Some of the other customers will have 15 or 20. And then after that, after selecting a category, within that category, you'll have a lot of product items that you can choose from. And once you choose one of those products, then you're going to end up with modifiers. So in the first screenshot here, you see we're choosing a bowl of green curry, and you have the modifiers that are actually in pink are the required ones. So it won't go on until you actually select an option for each one of those. And in this case, we're using, I think, the extras. Extras are optional items that you can add to a meal, but they aren't required. And if you hit the other modifier, there's another screen, I don't know if it's on here, but where you can actually replace items, and that was also interesting, the complexity that we got to put in. In that case, we put a lot of that decision-making in the UI UX, because Intuiface has that ability with triggers and actions to put that in the UI. Then once you actually select your, or build your shopping cart, then we display the shopping cart and we give them the ability to enter in a coupon if they have one. And then they just follow the instructions on the payment device, like it says up there. This is just a screenshot of the environment we have. We work on 4K screens that are 55 or 49-inch monitors, which we're pretty proud of because it's a lot easier than having 3 or 4 different monitors on your desktop and you get all the lines divided in. But it's really helpful when you're working with the Intuiface Composer because you can see everything. It's a lot of fun. And that's about it. Now, we've done this for Thai Chili to Go, but like I said, we've actually we're in the process of building it for a lot of other customers right now. And the beautiful thing about this is our salespeople love it, is they can come to me and say, hey, we're talking to Panda Express. Can you whip something out in a week so I can take it in there? And what we do is we build out a prototype that allows them to create the shopping cart. And by using a templatized solution in Intuiface, all they have to do really is change the menu items in the Excel spreadsheet or in the Airtable. And then maybe pull up that UI, make a copy of it, the experience, and change colors, drop in a logo or two. And then I can turn that thing out in a day or two with their menu and their logo. And now all it does is produce a shopping cart where they can actually, and then I send them a link. You know, in Intuiface you can actually share that web link because our sales people are asking, well, how are we going to demo this to us? Here's a link. Either have them show it on their screen, or if you want TV or go to a meeting, show it on yours if you want to do it that way. But they can actually get on there and play with it with Intuiface rather than just watch a PowerPoint or a bunch of screenshots. And then that prototype, where it's really a demo, actually allows them to build the complete a shopping cart with their product. It doesn't take payments because they're running it on their PC and there's no payment device. It doesn't print out a receipt, and it doesn't do loyalty cards or pass the order to the kitchen order. But that's enough for them to actually see whether or not this is going to work. So Intuiface is a great tool for enabling our sales department to demonstrate something that's fairly complex, and for us, the software department, to turn it out pretty quickly. Now, I'm not a design guy, and we have a department that's it's called ZIVELO Innovation Lab, which is the design department. So they'll build the assets for me, lay out everything they want, how they want something to operate, send me all the assets, and my job is easy. I just glue it together using Intuiface. Put in the interactions page to page or scene to scene. But with them building all the assets for me, it's really a breeze. And that's about it. Do you have any questions for me? Yes?
You said you were using Excel for whenever you were offline. When you're online, you use Airtable.
That's
so
right.
When you find the connection, you update the content from Airtable to the Excel local file, and then run the experience?
That's correct. The experience only reads from the local database, Excel, in this case. But Airtable will update that Excel spreadsheet. So that's the way it works. We could have written it to interface directly with Airtable, but we didn't want to do that because then we would have to access to the database. And we actually have, I talked to Seb about this about a month ago. It has nothing to do with this case study. We've got a project right now that we're actually interfacing with. What SQL database was it? The developers? SQLite. Oh, yeah, SQLite. So we're using SQLite. By the way, that's going along nicely. So we're using SQLite interface with Intuiface because the application, as Sid explained to me, Excel is like a 2-level database, so you can't really go deep. If you wanted, like, if I need to see a bunch of views of the data, I can't use Excel for that. But SQLite does allow me to do that. So it worked out really well. I think my time's up. One more question.
How does this ongoing person change his content? Like, he wants to change the menus or descriptions. Is this a service that you provide? Do you send him information? Or can you do that?
That was the very same question he asked us to begin with, is how am I going to update my data? And the answer is the Airtable. So we created an account for him in the cloud on Airtable. We built Airtable screens, and so he just updates his data there. And then it gets pushed up to the Excel spreadsheet. All right, thank you very much.